Hello everybody, my name is Kyle. Welcome back to my channel. Today, you guys are going to follow along as I manual swap my Pontiac Fiero. So the Fiero is completely torn apart right now for the winter. I have all the back apart. I did a whole bunch of frame repair, and now I'm moving on and I'm going to manual swap this car. I've been wanting to do it for a long time. I don't like the 3-speed automatic, and I'm finally going to make the change. So I already have all the parts that I need to do this swap. You guys are going to follow along and see exactly how I do this, and we're going to see how easy or difficult this swap really is. So the very first step that we need to do is to take the engine out of the car. Done. But seriously, the engine and transmission are already out of this car. I have them over there, and we're going to get working on those. But if you guys want to see a more in-depth video on taking out the engine cradle from this car, then click up here and watch the video. So here is my engine and transmission on the cradle. I really have not done too much to it after taking it out in the video. I took the plenum off. I did pressure wash it, so it's a little cleaner. There's still a lot of gunk and stuff in here in some certain spots I need to get to, but we will address that later. The very first thing that I want to do today is to take this auto off of the engine. So to do that, I know I need to take off all of these transmission bolts and the mount bolts. I don't really remember exactly how to do it, but I think I need to take off the torque converter to the flex plate bolts. And so I'm gonna figure that out. I'm gonna try taking off the starter because I know you can see it back up in there and you can see it on the other side. So it might just be a miserable time of getting a wrench in there and taking them off. But I think that's the very first thing I'm gonna start with. And then once I get everything separated, I can go and start addressing things piece by piece. All right, so the very first thing I'm gonna do on here is I'm gonna start taking off all the wiring stuff that goes into the transmission, separate it from the engine, and then I'm gonna go and take out the starter. If you guys didn't know, this is actually a starter from a 3800 supercharged. They actually bolt right in and are smaller, take less power, and have more torque than the factory Fiero starter. So it's a pretty no-brainer upgrade, and I did one this last year, and I love it. But anyways, yeah, I'm gonna try and get the wiring plugs out. I think it's just this guy and then maybe some brackets that hold them on. And then I'll start taking the starter out. All right, there's our starter. With the starter out, we can see up in here, we can see our flex plate bolts. So I'm gonna go through here and take these guys off. And then I'm gonna rotate the engine, try and get all of them off. I don't really know exactly how many there are, probably like 6 or something, but I'm gonna probably get those off, and then we can start taking off these trans bolts out here. And then I think we just have to take the mounts off and lift it out. I don't really know, to be honest, but we are going to see. Well, I'm starting to think that there's only 3 because when I turn the engine, it looks like the torque converter stays right there. So I guess there's only 3 torque converter bolts. That's kind of cool. These guys are 18 millimeters. So I guess I'm gonna start taking all those guys off, and then that should separate our engine from transmission. And then we can start taking off all these motor mounts and transmission mounts. So I have the engine hoist here, and I have a chain on the lift points on the engine. I went ahead and I loosened a bunch of the motor mount nuts that were on top, so I should be able to start picking it up. There it is. Cradle should be supported by the jack stand, so I think I should be able to lift the engine up more. I think. Maybe a little bit. Yeah. There's that. Gosh, I'm just falling right out. All right. There's the other axle. Now that everything is disconnected, I'm going to try and lift the engine up high enough so I can just roll the whole cradle out from underneath it, and I'll be able to set the drivetrain right down on a tire or something. And I think that'll be enough. All right. Are you free? Okay. All right, we have our engine cradle right here and our engine over here on the engine stand. Now that the engine is on the engine stand and the engine cradle is completely by itself, I can clean both of these things up quite a bit, replace some gaskets on the engine, and then we can start putting the manual transmission on the engine and then put it all back onto the cradle, and then it should be ready for the car. And here is what everything looks like now. We have everything all mated and sitting down together. I still have some things to go through and button up, but for the most part, I've done a lot of work in the past little while that I haven't really shown you guys. So let me give you guys a quick update. With the engine, I went through and repainted some stuff. I replaced a bunch of gaskets. I went through, did an EGR delete. I deleted the coolant hoses that went to the throttle body. And I've gone through here and I cleaned the entire thing up. I did the 88 oil pressure sensor upgrade, so I made a little plug that goes from the stock wiring into the new one. Moving on to the transmission. For the transmission, I have had this painted for a little while. I went through and did the axle seals. I did the throwout bearing, and I just cleaned the entire thing up. The transmission is done as well. I need to just put the axles in now. And then for the cradle, I cleaned that all up, and then I painted that with POR 15, the same stuff I used on the frame rails. And then I finished it off with some nice poly bushings on the cradle to replace those old worn out rubber ones. Yeah, we still have a lot of stuff to work on over here. I still need to mount up my slave cylinder and put the axles in and a whole bunch of other stuff like that. The next big task that we're gonna do is finish buttoning up everything so we can put this back into the car. I went and got some brand new FVP axles off of Rock Auto. I got both sides, and I'm going to put those on right now. It should be a pretty simple and straightforward installation. Okay, so the engine and transmission and everything on the cradle is basically 100% done and ready to be put into the car. But I didn't really tell you guys about the transmission I'm using along with what I'm doing for this actual swap. So let me tell you a little bit about that. This is a 4-speed out of a 1984 Fiero. I pulled this out of an 84, which was a parts car that I had. So I have the shift cables, the transmission itself, the pedal assembly, and the shifter assembly, all after spending $0. So that was the main reason why I was doing this swap. My main goal for this manual swap was to do just a quick, easy manual swap. And for my wiring harness and everything, I am leaving the automatic wiring harness on here and leaving the automatic PCM in the car. The reason why I'm doing this is just because I don't really want to have to source an 86 GT with a 4-speed. And I think that they're different anyways. I don't really know all the differences between the 4 speeds. And I didn't really want to mess with that. So I'm just going to use the auto harness. I went ahead and modified it. So there would be a huge plug that comes down here for the transmission select thing. I shortened all of those wires and I have it just sitting up here right now. It's always thinking that it's in park. So I think that the car should start just fine. I shortened all the wires. I'm going to just hide that over there. For the time being, for testing, I may depin some stuff and get rid of it. But for right now, I'm going to do that. I lengthened the wires that go to the speedometer thing right here. I don't exactly know what it's called. I just call it the speedometer because that's what gives it power, I think. But I lengthened that, so now I can plug in over here, and I really just cleaned that up a little bit. But that's really all I did for the wiring aspect of it, and I think it should work. But I guess we're going to see once it's in the car. But before I can put the engine in, I think it's going to be easier to put the shifter cables on. So I'm going to go ahead and put the shifter assembly in and my shift cables. This is the 4-speed shifter assembly that I'm using. I completely took this thing apart and rebuilt it from the ground up, and I have Rodney Dickman's short throw shifter on here as well. And I wrapped the cables with some heat tape just to help it with some insulation. And I'm really happy with how this thing looks. There's absolutely no slop in it, and I'm really excited to get this thing thrown into the car. So I spent all day yesterday putting some more stuff onto the engine, and I messed around with my shifter cables a little bit, and I found a sweet spot on adjusting them. I went ahead and put the stock shift arm back on it, but I'm able to go into first, second, third, and fourth. I can even go over into reverse as well. So I have my shifter all set and adjusted, and it's really smooth. It's really nice. I'm going to put the Rodney Dickman one back on, but for the meantime, I just wanted to have something that I could easily throw and tell the differences between the gears, because the Rodney Dickman short throw shifter is so tight with its throws that it was kind of difficult to see. Now that the shifter is in, the cables are routed and adjusted, I still need to make my clutch line as well as install my brake pedal, my manual brake pedal, and the clutch pedal, and I need to install the clutch master cylinder up front. So I'm gonna try and focus on the pedals right now. I thought you had to replace this entire pedal assembly, but that is not the case. As you can see here, there are nuts right here and right here, and that allows you to take this entire clutch section right off of the brake pedal. And the automatic is the same way. This is just one long bolt that goes all the way through, and I will be able to take off this brake pedal, so I don't have the long one for the automatic. So yeah, after you take those two bolts out, the entire clutch assembly bracket will just come right off. That's all that holds it on. And then it'll come right out. And then you take the whole thing off as one. And after a very simple disassembly, this is everything we are going to need to convert our automatic pedals to work with the manual. So now that you guys saw me disassemble one out of the car, I'm going to try and take apart the pedals in the car. I've never done this, and it's on the lift, so I can't really even open up the door all the way. So this is probably going to be a very miserable task of me laying in here on my back, but I'm going to try it, and you guys will see how hard it actually is. Well, it wasn't really that fun, but it could have been a lot worse. But the pedal came out. See, it's honestly not that bad to put this thing in. I have some pretty good access, so I'm just gonna have to move some stuff out of the way, kind of force it on up, just like that. Holes line up pretty good. Okay, well, you guys can kind of see up in here that I have this thing mounted on now. So you can see I have one right there that is all tightened down, and the other one is right over here. That one is also tightened down. So this thing is mounted in place. Well, I have both pedals. I have the clutch and the brake pedal in. It took a little bit of messing around, especially the hardest part was probably on the clutch pedal. There is a spring, and you have to get that to go into a notch on the brake pedal assembly, and that was kind of difficult to get in, but I was able to. So now the clutch pedal is in fine, and then I was able to get the brake pedal to come in just fine as well. So I just have a couple things to button up. I need to put back on this brake push rod right here, and I also need to put on the nut that goes on the very long bolt up top, because I just have that slid in right now. But yeah, we're making good progress. Now that our car has 3 pedals, we can move into the frunk and we can install our clutch master cylinder. They should be really easy. Should just slide right on, just like that. And then we can put our bolts on. And then the last thing would be our line, and then the fill it with fluid. My clutch line just came in the mail, so now it's time to tackle this clutch line so we can drive this car. I just went ahead and tore out all of the old automatic transmission cooler lines, and everything is bolted in, so it's finally time to make our clutch line. This is everything that I have that I'm going to be using to make my clutch line. Right here, this soft line is the Rodney Dickman slave cylinder repair kit. So it has the braided soft line to go into the slave cylinder with the right fitting, and then it goes to a hard line. It comes with a compression fitting. I don't know if I'm going to use that or not. I also went and picked up a Union, so I'm going to see whichever one works there. And then I just have some leftover 6mm line. This is going to go and meet up there. So then this is going to be back at the slave, and I'm going to route all this up to the front of the car. And then I picked up the right fittings so I can go right into the master cylinder. You can buy a whole clutch line off the Fiero store, but I think it's like $200 something, and I really didn't want to do that. So that's why I got this. The most expensive thing on here was the Rodney Dickman repair kit. That was about $50. And I had the line, and the fittings were like $10. So for $60, I'm making this instead of $200. So that's a win in my book. And as you see on here, we have our flare. It's the bubble flare, just as they are from factory. This tool right here makes flaring brake lines and any kind of line extremely easy. It is awesome. All right, if you see down here, I have the clutch line made. The soft line is onto the slave cylinder up there. I have that all tightened down. It comes out here. I ended up using the Union, so I have that just right here. And then the clutch line goes all the way out. And it's a little weird up here, but I have it in, threaded it up here. But the whole thing is in. I just need to go and bleed this now. The clutch line is completely bled. I just had my dad help me with that. All the fittings are tight. There are no leaks. The clutch fork moves as it should, nice and easy. I have a good pedal. What I'm gonna do is put all the wheels on, and I'm gonna roll it outside so I don't smoke up the whole garage. And then we're gonna see if this thing can actually move. But that is going to wrap up our video on how to manual swap a Fiero. This was a bare minimum manual swap with the very least amount of parts needed to convert this car. And now you know everything that you'll need to do this swap. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. It was definitely a big learning experience for me, and I hope you guys might have learned something along with me on this project. I'm extremely happy with how it turned out. I'm overjoyed that this car is drivable again. I just need to put the whole thing back together now because it is completely torn apart. But I'm gonna leave that to another video. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video. See you later.